In the past decade of Vikings football, there have been many highs and many lows. Moments that bring joy and moments that make you cringe. Moments that make you ask the question, what if? Well, now on Score North, it's time to ask that very question, what if, with Vikings football?
All right. We are nearing the end of 2019.
End of the decade.
This all started in 2010. This, by the way, inclusive as well, 651-646-8255, 651-646-8255, as we throw out the what ifs of Viking football. I've come up with five things that could have been altered, and I don't care. Some of them can be silly. Some can have come close to happening and be serious. The what ifs. Manny Hill, we'll start with you, and let's do this. Let's go around and throw out the what ifs of the past 10 years for Vikings football that could have altered things. I love the music, Maestro.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to start with, we're going to go back to 2011. Christmas Eve, 2011, the Minnesota Vikings.
You're just going right for the jugular, aren't you?
The Minnesota Vikings are taking on the Washington football squad in, I believe it's Landover, Maryland, right? Where
Correct.
the FedEx Field is, where that Washington football team plays.
That dumpster of a stadium?
Yeah, with
Landover.
an awful field. Well, two things happened on that Christmas Eve day, gentlemen. Number one, and we could actually even maybe split this up into two
Go
different
right ahead.
what-if questions.
It's your what ifs.
Two things happened on that day. Number one, Adrian Peterson tore his ACL and left the game and miraculously came back, was ready to go week one the following season, and the rest is history. He runs for nearly 2,100 yards and wins the MVP in 2012, but that's not the main part of this question. The other thing that happened that day was the Vikings won that game in Landover, Maryland against the Washington football team, en route to finishing 3-13 on the season and Leslie Frazier's first full season as head coach. The Vikings ended up with the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft in 2012, in which they traded down one spot with Danny's Cleveland Browns and took left tackle Matt Khalil out of USC. Danny's Browns took Trent Richardson, by the way.
Yeah, it didn't work out for anybody, really.
The Browns traded Trent for a first-round pick the next year.
Which they used on Johnny Manziel, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
As I said, it didn't work out for anybody, really.
He brought hope. Homeless man told
Well, the
Jimmy
question
Draft.
is, there were 2 quarterbacks taken in that 2012 draft, went number 1, number 2 overall, respectively. Andrew Luck and one Robert Griffin III. If the Vikings had not won that game on Christmas Eve, I think they would have gotten second pick, or they would have been first.
No, I think they would have gotten second, but I can get you to first. Keep going, because I can get you to first. It was possible.
The question is, gentlemen, what if the Vikings had not won that day on Christmas Eve and gotten the number 2 overall pick and decided to draft either an Andrew Luck or a Robert Griffin III?
I love this one. I love this one for so many different reasons. My first reason why I love this is because Christian Ponder, if I'm not mistaken, started that game, and now it's forgotten now because that's the day that Adrian Peterson tore up his knee, as you said, Manny.
Mm-hmm.
But Christian Ponder got hurt. Christian Ponder was leading the Vikings to defeat. It was perfect. And then he gets hurt, and Joe Webb comes in.
That's right.
And nobody really knew how to play Joe. Washington was not prepared for Joe Webb. I know that sounds stupid now, and people are going to probably laugh and drive off the road possibly, but they weren't. And I just remember post-game, Leslie Frazier was so happy that he had won that game. And it was so meaningless. And Peterson's knee was basically pointing backwards.
Not great.
And you said to yourself, why are you happy, Leslie? Everybody loves you, but why are you happy? Now, here's the part 2 of the what if to what you're saying, Manny, that I believe could have got you the Luck pick, which I do think might have changed the entire course of history of this franchise.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? What would have got you that pick is, if you remember, the Vikings earlier in that season went into Carolina, and the Carolina kicker Was it Gano at the
I
time?
think it might have been Graham Gano. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a name.
Yeah.
He missed a field goal that, if I'm not mistaken, would have beaten you and given Carolina the win. And I don't think it was that tough a field goal. I don't think we're talking about a 63-yard shot here, all right? So couple the Washington game, meaningless win, stupid win, just
Idiotic win.
stupid win with the Carolina win. And now I've got you, because the Vikings in that year had one real win. Arizona at the Metrodome, I believe. That was their one real win.
That's right. Beat them 34-10. I'm looking at the schedule now.
Very
Good
easy
for them.
Very easily, though, could have landed on the perfect record, 1-15, and gotten the luck pick. And then my question, too, is if luck comes here and you do it right, does luck get hurt as much as he did for the Colts? Because the Colts got totally irresponsible at times. They gave him no line at times.
Yeah.
So and then traded for Trent Richardson.
Yeah. So if luck is here, what's the difference? And that's one of the few defining seasons that could have changed the course of the next 10 years.
Yeah.
If you put all that together and you get luck. Griffin, I have no idea. But luck here, generational talent at that time, and damn good.
And the Vikings then don't draft Teddy Bridgewater.
Nope. And we'll get to that what if.
We'll get to that one, yeah, for sure.
Danny, you want to go next? What if for the Vikings?
So there, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's only been one playoff victory this decade, right? By the Vikings?
I think that's right.
Yeah, I guess
And
January 2010
that would be
The
the
Miracle.
Minneapolis Miracle.
The Miracle, because they lost a wild card game in Green Bay the year after they won the 3 games. And then they lost the Seattle first round. So yeah.
Yep.
What if that game doesn't happen? What if they don't win the Minneapolis Miracle? What if whoever the Saints defensive back is, whose name I forget, sorry.
The poor safety.
Marcus Williams.
What if Marcus Williams makes the tackle?
Who still plays for the Saints, by the way.
What if he makes the tackle? How do we look at this team now? Because then we go from, okay, well, since Zim got here, they've made the playoffs twice, but they've lost in their first opportunity both times. Does Zim survive last season going 8-7-1 if if he does not have a single playoff win?
Juicy.
Who's the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings now?
Stop there though. Does he survive? I don't think he does. I think you're right.
I think
stop on that one first. I think I don't think he does. Because now you're at no playoff wins. How long?
No playoff wins since Brett Favre. Since the divisional round in 2009.
I love this one. No, I don't think he's coach.
No.
8-7-1, Cousins. Let's say it all plays out and you still go get Cousins.
If you go 13-3, don't win a playoff game.
Right.
And then sign the highest priced quarterback in the history of the NFL.
And you've blown a 17.
And you win 5 fewer games.
And in that Saints game, you still then blew a 17-rip halftime lead.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you blew a massive home lead against the Saints in your building? No, I think he's fired. I think Spielman might be gone too.
So, I mean, it is very plausible to think that Marcus Williams, right?
Yep.
Marcus Williams saved Mike Zimmer's job by missing a tackle.
Love this one. Who's your coach?
I have no idea. I mean, look at the coaches who were available last offseason. Matt LaFleur is probably not coming here. You're certainly not hiring Frederick Kitchens.
No. Only one team did that.
Zach Taylor, I don't see that happening here.
No, I agree.
I think that the better question, because sure, we can wonder who the coach is. Who's the guy picking the coach?
Yeah.
That I think that matters more. That gives us more insight to who the coach would be. And who's making that decision.
And I think Spielman is gone then too. I think they're both. I think if you don't
Probably.
win that Saints game, because now you're way into. Because Rick's been here since 2006 and had full authority since after that 3-13 debacle.
Yeah.
2012.
He became GM. And then, if you fire Zim at that point in time, I don't think you keep Rick and allow him to pick the coach. So who's your GM as well?
It's a great question.
Juicy. I don't even know who you would have gone after.
Somebody from the Patriots.
Yeah, don't dismiss that. Love it.
Well, I mean, no, never mind. He wouldn't have been available. I was going to say Matt Patricia, but that was the year before he became the Lions.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what though? No, I think coach-wise, I think they would have almost for sure their
Gone
next coach offense. They wouldn't have gone back to a defensive guy.
That's fair.
Josh McDaniels.
They might have talked to him.
He's going to be in Cleveland.
No,
Okay.
have fun with that, people person. All right.
Just win, man, please.
To be clear, I'm going to start off with my lesser ones and try and build up too.
Oh.
So Danny's was he got. I mean, and Manny, you guys got.
That's my best one.
Manny,
we hit the home runs
well,
already.
I know, but we have to have differing tactics here. Okay, tactics.
All right.
What if? And this one's very simple. The Vikings had the wherewithal, the smarts, and ability, because this might have taken some doing a year ago, to have hired Gary Kubiak right after signing Kirk Cousins. And Kubiak was either the OC instead of Flip, or assistant head coach, offensive advisor. Stefanski had been immediately promoted in 2018 to OC, and you had paired them with Cousins. Because my contention now is you signed Cousins and then essentially wasted a year of Kirk by not knowing that Kirk had to have help, that Kirk had to have his guys. He clearly, if he's running a Kirk offense, is effective. What if they had gone that course? Because I do think in Vikings history, we're going to come to the conclusion that 2018 was almost just wasted.
Yeah. Well, here's what's interesting about that, too. You could even go back to Danny's question about the Minneapolis Miracle. Because if the Minneapolis Miracle doesn't happen, the Vikings don't go to Philadelphia in an NFC Championship game. Nick Foles doesn't torch Mike Zimmer's defense. Is Mike Zimmer less inclined to want to hire John DeFilippo at that point?
But I think Danny's on to something. Yeah, that's a good.
Danny's on to something.
It might be Danny, might be on to something, but that's a good point too. And yeah,
because
so
maybe
right,
because
he's
maybe
not.
does go Gary
because he's
Kubiak.
not going to consider him. Well, and now Gary was.
Is Gary going to replace a friend in Mike Zimmer?
And Gary was an advisor to Elway in Denver in 17 and 18. So the only reason why I think Gary bolted to the Vikings in 19 was because he was all set to join Vic Fangio and get back into coaching, and Fangio chased him off. He didn't agree with the assistants that Gary, including his son Clint, that Gary was going to hire. Yeah. And he didn't. I don't think that they agreed on strategy. Vic Fangio, defensive guy, you're an idiot. What are you doing there? But if you had gotten a Cousins-friendly coach in 2018 and not essentially said, Kirk can work with anybody, which turned out to be a huge mistake.
Right.
How much different is 18 then? And the potential that Kirk, instead of just having gaudy statistics, actually has an effective year, because you were at 8-7-1, this close to being a playoff team, incredibly close.
Yeah.
But let's say Kirk's got guys that he works with, and the scheme works for Kirk. So now let's give you 2 more wins. Buffalo, for instance. Let's say you don't lay an egg that day. And so now you go from 13-3 in 17 to Kirk actually comes in, is effective, and you either win the division or certainly make the playoffs again, and it's Kubiak. Anyway, that's my first what if for the past decade. Back to you, Manny Hill.
All right. I got an interesting one. 2010. We're going to go back to 2010. And this might just be for this might just be more for our answer might just be more for comic relief than anything. What if Brad Childress hadn't cut Randy Moss after 4 games in 2010?
He's not fired for sure during the course of that season.
Right.
No way he's fired in season. The Green Bay game was terrible, but that just was a jumping off point for them to justify. Because
it was the New England game that Brad ended up making the decision to cut Randy
after that game. But then so the Wilfs were livid at Brad, and they won the Cardinals game, which I think was the next Sunday at the Metrodome. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were. If he had lost that game, he was gone then.
And they had to come back. They were down, I think, 10 in the 4th quarter. They had to come back and win in overtime.
Now, if they don't get Moss still, 2010 is a debacle. Moss didn't make or break that year, but that decision was why Brad got fired. Brad, I think, you know what I think? I think Brad is the coach through 2010 and then probably fired.
Probably fired after the season.
Because that season was so bad. That season was absolutely awful. So I think he's fired, most likely, but it doesn't happen until the Monday after the season in January. Because he would not been. The Wilfs were just so, and rightfully so. How can you not tell ownership you're gonna hand the guy that you, by the way, acquired and said you could control, which from day one you had no chance to control Randy Moss, Brad Childress.
No one ever had a chance.
There was no shot.
That game at the Dome, I think it was 31-3.
Yeah,
Packers came in, drilled them, and the fire Childress chants were ringing loudly through the Dome that day.
Yes, they were. Yeah, you know what? I think he gets fired probably, but it's not till after
the season,
2010. Danny, what's your next one?
What if Kirk Cousins decides to sign with the Jets? That was the other team that was allegedly offering him a ton of money that offseason. What if he says, okay, I want to stay on the East Coast. I want to be the quarterback in New York. I want to try and be the next Joe Namath. I don't want to come to Minnesota. It's cold there. I like the biggest city in the States.
Mutton chops and a big mustache for Kirk.
Yeah, wear fur coats all the time. What if that's the path Kirk Cousins would have chose? What does this franchise look like right now?
You like that?
He might have liked it.
Do they, if they whiff on Cousins, do they bring back Case? Because I think Case.
And what about Teddy?
Bring back Case and Teddy and let them.
That was Declan. If you guys heard that,
probably right.
Yeah, I could see that.
And if they have
Mike
Teddy
loved
now,
Teddy.
are they a Super Bowl contender? Do they have that money
Zim
elsewhere?
would be happy.
Okay. Take me down this path more now. Tell me this: if they bring back Teddy, can he start in 2018, or does he have to wait some more to get healthy, or what's the scenario? Or do you bring back Keenum and what's the scenario there? Do you think?
I think they bring, if Cousins signs with the Jets, I think they bring Case and Teddy back and let them both compete for the job.
And does Case come back for that? Because I think Case was pretty convinced after how good he was in 17 that he was a starter. But let's
thought wrong.
But let's just say they bring. But let's say we all knew that. But let's say they bring back Teddy.
Do they bring back Teddy and
Case doesn't come back and you sign Trevor Siemian? When does Teddy start again? Mike would have been, I'm sure, very happy.
Oh, he would have been overjoyed.
Because I think it was the Vikings doctors who essentially said, we can't take that chance, right?
Yeah.
I get that.
They just didn't know.
Do they say goodbye to both of them still and draft Lamar Jackson?
I don't know that oh boy. Here's the other question too. If they don't get, let's say they don't get Kirk and they bring back Teddy at a good price or draft a quarterback, what's the trickle down of who you can sign right now or could have signed?
What's your offensive line look like?
Your offensive line all of a sudden could have added a tackle or guard very easily.
Mm-hmm.
If you drafted Lamar Jackson, it would have been like that.
Yep.
I don't think Lamar would have been as successful here as he is in Baltimore, though. I'll say that.
Because they probably wouldn't have.
They wouldn't have the same offense that they have. And let's not forget, Lamar Jackson wasn't that good last year. Like as great as he's been this year,
he's the mid too.
As great as he's been this year,
yep.
Lamar Jackson was like Baker Mayfield. He has been far better than Baker Mayfield this year. Last year, Baker Mayfield was the superior quarterback to him. Like we can't forget that he was not ready to be a franchise quarterback as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about that. Now, obviously, things have changed.
Right.
But last year, that wasn't the case.
Right. Which is why, ideally, you always say, ease a guy in.
Yep.
Maybe.
And that's what the Ravens did with him.
Go to meetings, take your time, don't expect to have to play.
Learn the NFL life.
Yes.
Maybe they bring back Case and just have him as a stopback and then stopgap, I should say, and still draft Lamar and just make him sit the whole season.
Let's say they bring back Case. Teddy leaves. Let's say they don't draft Jackson. So it's just they've just decided, because you could have decided, I don't like it, but you could have said, hey, this guy was incredible, unbelievable. What would Case have done as a follow-up act? Would it have been 8-7-1? Would it have been
probably
7 wins, 6 wins?
10 wins.
So you think it'd be 10 wins?
I think they make the playoffs.
So you're in the playoffs then?
I think they make the playoffs with Case. This year, they're not as good. Last year, they're better.
Even if they still hire DeFilippo?
Sure, why not?
I don't know about that.
I think that they are. I think that they're better with. I think they're better with Case last year than they were Kirk. But I think this year they're far better with Kirk than they would have been Case.